Okay. If you guys pick a genre, any genre, and most of the time you'll find romantic elements layered throughout the story. Terminator, Star Wars, LA Confidential, One for the Money have something in common. They all contain a love story or two. But how do you add a touch of romance to your story, no matter what the genre, and make it work? So today we have authors Jeffe and Robin Perini. They'll provide you with the tools and secrets to create a great romance, whatever the genre. They are award-winning national bestsellers who also discuss publishing in the genre that is nearly 1/4 of all fiction sold, with over $1 billion in sales each year throughout the world. Yes. That's basically all over the world, right? Okay. So, Jeffe, whom we've seen before and lives up in Santa Fe, is an award-winning author whose works include novels that are nonfiction, poetry, and short fiction. She's been a UCross Foundation Fellow, received the Wyoming Arts Council Fellowship for Poetry, and was awarded the Frank Nelson Doubleday Memorial Award. Her fantasy romance novels have received Reviewer's Choice and Book of the Year awards from RT and the Rio Award from RWA, Romance Writers of America. And then our next person is Robin Perini, our other speaker. She's a Publishers Weekly bestseller of Forgotten Secrets. She's an international best-selling author devoted to giving readers fast-paced, high-stakes adventures with a love story, sure to melt their hearts. Another Rita Award finalist and winner of the RWA Golden Heart Award. She sold 14 titles to publishers in less than 2 years. Robin's a nationally acclaimed writing instructor, but her passion remains as an advocate for those who battle Alzheimer's in honor of her mother. Ladies and gentlemen, Robin and Jeffe.
Hi, how's everybody doing today? Good? All right, so Jeffe and I are going to talk a little bit about putting some romance in your stories, no matter what kind of book you're writing. And so we're going to go through a little bit about romance genre. We're going to talk about some of the tropes and archetypes that exist in the genre that can help you put romance. We're going to talk a little about structure. We've got a list, we've got a handout that's going around, has gone around. I made 100 of them. If somebody doesn't get one, let us know, and I'm going to email one to Melody and let her pass it along. So there's a list of tropes on this, and hopefully we can speak through things. One of the things we're doing is there's a basket that's going to be passed around. It's white, wicker. What we're going to do is we're going to collect everybody's name. If you want to be part of our mailing lists, you can put your email address on there. Write legibly, please. And we don't, I don't know about Jeffe, I don't do a lot of these letters, but at least it's announcements on things that are going on. But you do need to say, yeah, she only does it when she has something to say. That's like me too. So put your email address there if you want to be part of our mailing list, and just say yes on yes by the email so that you agree to go on the mailing list. But the other thing you're doing, the reason you want to put your at least name in that is we're going to give away 3 books. We're going to give away one of Jeffe's art. We're going to give away one of my books. And we're also giving away a craft book called Fire and Fiction by Donald Moss. So make sure you put, and you have to be present to win, so those who skip out, tough cookies. Okay, let's talk a little bit about romance. What's so great about romance? Besides the obvious. Romance, so I'm going to talk about a little bit about the money. Romance fiction in 2015, which is the latest stats we have, sales were $1.44 billion. The next closest popular fiction genre was crime and mystery at $728 million. Okay. So that's a lot. So romance is a very, very popular genre. But you know what else happens is science fiction, for those of you who want to know, science fiction is 500, and fantasy, 590.2 million. Okay, so those are the top 3 best-selling genres. So everybody loves a little good romance. And so what we want to talk about today is why romance is so awesome and how you can put it in your stories. I mean, if you think about some of the movies out there that have romance in them. I mean, give me an example of a movie that's got a love story. And I'll give you one, Terminator. There's a love story in Terminator. Anybody else have any thoughts? Throw out. No.
Star Wars.
Star Wars has a romance, definitely. Anybody else?
Jurassic World.
Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. So you don't have to write a romance novel to have romance in your story, but there are differences between a love story and a romance. And so I'm going to do that real quick, that quick definition, and let Jeffe take off on some romance guidelines. A romance has a very specific definition that Jeffe's going to go into. A love story has a romance, but it's not necessarily happily ever after. So in Terminator, there's a love story, but it's a tragedy. Romeo and Juliet has romance in it, but it's not a romance. Because the romance has a very, very specific definition. So you can put a love story in using these same tropes into your story, but if you're going to market to romance readers, and they make a large percentage of readers, if you're going to do a tragic romance, you need to cue them in on it, or they're going to be very, very upset. I write romantic suspense, romantic thrillers, romantic mystery. I have a lot of mystery readers who read my stuff, and a lot of romance readers. Pretty much what I get good reviews, but when somebody hates my book, it's typically the mystery writer who says, I just can't stand all that cushy, mushy, kissing stuff. And then the romance readers will say, there just wasn't enough kissy, mushy, gushy. So I try very hard to strike a balance. But I do write romances, that's what I write, so that's where we're trying to market it, but I have a lot of mystery readers too. So when you're trying to add a romance into your story, you've got to make sure you know what your actual genre of your book is. So I write romance with a very strong mystery thriller element. I don't write a thriller with a slight romance or love story. So you need to know what your genre is in order to make good decisions. So Jeffe's going to talk about the guidelines for putting romance in your stories.
So one way to look at this too is we apologize for these numbers being old, but one reason that they're old is because the industry hasn't gotten caught up with counting ebooks. So probably the numbers are much larger than this at this point in time. The most important thing when you're looking at your handout, if you have it, is that the romance sales are double the next highest category. And that continues to be true. So when you think about, do you want to attract romance readers? No, money's a reason. You don't have to do everything for money, but romance readers are voracious and passionate readers, and they will, if they love your books, boy, will they talk up your books. That's an amazing thing to witness. The thing about romance readers is that you really have to respect what they're looking for. A lot of people have contempt for romance readers, thinking that they're stupid, that they're silly women, that maybe they don't understand that what they really want is something needier than happy ever after. So if you're going to try to attract your romance readers, you have to respect what they want. And what they want is a happy ever after or a happy for now, the HEA or the HFN. And we call it the one rule to rule them all, right? You can't break that rule and call it a romance. You're just not allowed to. And if you do, the romance readers will pillory you and they will never ever buy your book again because they will not trust you. So you have to understand that if you're going to promise that it is a romance, it must have a happy ever after, or it can be a happy for now. And a happy for now means that there's a promise that they are together and that their relationship can plausibly continue in the future. Do we save questions for the end? Is that all right? We're already running a little bit behind, so we want to make sure we get through some of this. So, and I can give you a quick example of a book that was a science fiction romance that was marketed as a romance. Starship Captain, she was kind of like a female James Kirk, terrific book, everybody really loved it, except at the end, she and the male love interest parted ways, never to meet again. And there was a hint that she would then meet another love interest in the next book. And it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that, except the romance readers were really, really mad. Because they thought that it was going to end happily. And I'm going to add something to that people say, oh, well, you know, that's a cliche ending. You know that it's going to happen. And, you know, I want to mix it up and surprise the reader. Okay, well, changing out that AGA, that's not a good surprise. And I was listening to Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic on audio on the drive down, and I don't know if any of you have listened to it or read it, but she was talking about finding the delight in life, prioritizing delight and gladness in the furnace of the world, which is a quote from a poet, Jack Gilbert. And I thought that really struck me because that's what putting romance in the books is about, is that the romance can be transformative and it brings delight and gladness. So if you can think of those terms, that's how you can not be violating that rule. You want me to go through the deadlines or do you want to?
One second, okay. Just one thing, I mean, as an example is, you could call mystery also cliche. But what if you wrote a mystery novel where you never found out who did it? Would people not be a little upset? Or the serial killer never got caught and went on to, you know, become a hero of some sort. Twisted though it may be. You could write that book. Are your mystery readers going to be happy with that? No, definitely not. Oh, yeah.
So within the, you know, the one rule is inviolate, if you want to call it romance. We also have some guidelines on here. These are rules or guidelines that you can break, mostly because we can think of people who have broken them, but you dance that line at your peril. And just tap me if you want to add anything on these. So guideline number 1 is be wary of having the hero or heroine be unfaithful to each other. Romance readers really hate adultery. So if you're going to do it, you're going to have to work really hard to redeem that person who was unfaithful. Don't kill the cat, dog, or child. You know, you can get, people have done it, but again, that violates that idea of delight and gladness. And some people just can't stand it.
I did it. Just saying. I did it. So I still write for Harlequin. Okay? Harlequin is the epitome of romance, right? People think of that as like a Hallmark movie. There's also romantic suspense lines in Harlequin. I write Harlequin intrigues. And in the beginning of one of my books, I blew up an entire family. And I didn't actually know if they let me get away with it. And they did. You didn't know them very well. And one of the children survived, and then they had to go on the run, and I was able to get away with it. But I was actually trying to figure out how I could start the book without that, thinking my editor would come back and tell me to fix it and change it because I couldn't do it. But they let me do it, so you never know. But I was well aware of the problem.
And I did it once. I thought that I would be forgiven for it because the story was a Goose Girl retelling. And in the fairy tale, the Goose Girl, the princess's horse is killed, and they hang the horse's head over the gate, and the story goes from there. And I felt like there was no way I could get around killing a horse if it was a Goose Girl retelling. My readers were so mad at me. They bring it up to me every once in a while. It's like the romance was happy, but they're like, I can't believe you killed the horse. So dance that line at your peril. And we're talking about this in terms of hero-heroine because it's easier, but of course this covers all kinds of pairings or polyamorous if you want to do that. But because romance readers are predominantly female, Some of these guidelines are put in that lens. If the hero is a real jerk to the heroine, then he has to be redeemed in some way. You must make him suffer. You must make him be really, really, really sorry that he was a jerk to her. Likewise with rape. If you're going to have rape in the story, I'm never going to be someone who says don't have sexual abuse or don't have rape in a story, which some people will say they just shouldn't have it there at all. I think that rape and sexual abuse is a reality of many people's lives and it deserves to be handled well in fiction. But if you do it, be really aware of what you're doing. Do a good job, do your research, and handle it well. This is guideline number 5 is one that's more difficult to figure out, but it's how you keep your happy ever after from being cliche, is that it must be earned. Your characters must suffer, they must change, they usually have to give up something really important or something that they thought was important at the beginning of the story in order to have that love. You know, if you're writing romance as a subplot to your other story, very often you can tie that in to the, you know, like in order to defeat the serial killer, they have to gain some kind of ability or face some kind of fear that then also allows them to embrace true love. It has to be earned in the same way that you would earn the ending of any story. So like you can't, at the end of your mystery, have it like be the person that it obviously was all along, right? You can't just say, oh look, this guy's the serial killer, let's arrest him, all right? You want to earn these things. And the final guideline is the one that I already mentioned, which is be wary of swapping out one love interest for another. Very often this happens if you base the love interest on someone in your own life and then divorce them or become very angry at them and you're like, well, I'm not going to have that guy in my books anymore. It doesn't work out all that well for your readers because they've invested in the love interest that you gave them. Just as with the example that I was giving you before, you might think it's more interesting to produce a new love interest, but your romance readers, if you've done your job right, they will have fallen in love with your love interest also. And so you have to honor that and respect it.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the romance or the love story within any kind of novel. And you really do need to think of it as a subplot if you're not writing romance per se. And so it has all of the elements of subplot. Subplots are kind of interesting. There just are not a lot of books that include the topic of subplots. It's not all that common. But subplots are integral to the main plot. In other words, if you have a subplot in your story, you can take it out and it doesn't change the book, make the subplot another book. It's not necessary. So your subplot absolutely must impact your main plot. So when you can't just throw in a hot cute hero, and say I'm going to have this love story and it's going to, make all the female readers go swimming and whatnot. One of the great things about adding romance is you're actually adding character depth to your main characters anyways, to your protagonist, your antagonist, and potentially even your villain. So it's a really, really good way to humanize them. In the film Jerry Maguire, there was a love story along with kind of a buddy movie of Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. But without the romance, that buddy movie wouldn't work. Without the buddy part of the movie, the romance wouldn't have worked, right? Because Cuba Gooding actually was doing what Jerry Maguire was doing. He just didn't, Jerry saw it in Cuba Gooding Jr. and didn't see it in himself until the end of the story. So he grew and changed. And in order to have true love, yeah. So in order to win, he had to grow and change. Romance readers love to read about character growth. They want someone who has got a flaw and grows and changes. And you can use romance in those relationships. It's a great way to develop your characters. It's a great way to show their flaws. Okay. Romance threads need to serve a clear purpose. So the romance character is either by the hero or heroine's side from the start, acting as an ally or a rival. In other words, there has to be a reason for them being there. Okay? And you can substitute protagonist, antagonist, hero and heroine if you want to. Like Jeffe, as Jeffe was saying, this is whoever your main relationship characters are. You need to keep the promise to your reader. If you're writing a mystery, your main book needs to be a mystery. If you're writing a romance, the main part of the book needs to be a romance. So if you go in and you start off and you're going to write a sci-fi novel, and then all of a sudden it becomes a romance with sci-fi, you know, you made a promise to the reader when you tell them this is a sci-fi novel or this is a mystery, and you absolutely have to keep that promise. One way, it's not 100%, but it's a guideline, a tool, not a rule, is Jerry Maguire, I consider romance. And the reason for that is if you look at how the book begins and how it ends, how does it end? It ends with you completely. The love story is last, not the buddy part of the movie. Typically what you'll see in romantic suspense is you'll see the suspense wrap up before the love story. In reverse, with a mystery novel, you'll see the romance wrap up a lot of times before the mystery. So that's one way you can, try to keep things focused. Sure.
I'm just going to throw this in for the other science fiction and fantasy folks out there. I was on a really interesting panel at Nebula Conference that Mary Robinette Cole moderated, and it made me understand something about science fiction and fantasy that I hadn't before. She did a great job of moderating because she made me understand it as I talked about it. That science fiction and fantasy has no particular structure. That there is no one structure that you can point to for the genre. That really science fiction and fantasy is more setting. It's a flavor, it's a milieu, it's setting, and something else is the structure for a story. So, and that's why it's really easy in some ways to do a fantasy romance or a science fiction romance, because you can make the romance be the structure and then put it in a science fiction or a fantasy setting. Likewise with mystery or thriller. Isn't that interesting? I've been writing this for years and I never knew that.
It's really interesting. Yeah. I like that a lot. Because I guess, you could add any subgenre in there. Exactly. One of the things about romance, the other thing you guys need to know is romance, there's a lot of different kinds. Okay, so there's contemporary romance, there's paranormal romance, there's science fiction romance, there's an adult romance, there's Amish romance, there's inspirational romance, there's Regency romance, there's historical, and all the various and the sundry things of that. Scottish Highlands are very popular. But we never talk about them not taking a bath. There's a lot of flavors of romance. So that shows you that romance readers like a lot of different kinds of writing, I think, as well. Those are very, very popular.
So say what the romance plot structure is.
Yeah, so the romance plot structure is, the way the plot is on a romance novel is the characters meet. It's like, and they meet somehow. And they meet and they're either fighting or they're not fighting, they're working together. And then they go through this relationship, and at some point they get to the point of no return. Okay, this is kind of a similar 3-act structure. Joseph Campbell, you guys don't know what those are, go look at your craft books. There's a point of no return. The point of no return is they've invested enough, they're not going to go back. It's about 25% through your plot. There's a midpoint where everything turns upside down. For example, at one point they are reluctantly going in this direction, and then at the midpoint you flip around and you're going whole hog. They're pretty passive for the first half of the book, the second half they're very active. So your return would be an example of a midpoint, but the whole plot is turned on its head at the midpoint. Then it reaches into a black moment. And the black moment it's an emotional black moment. It's when is the worst thing happening to you. It is called a black moment. One of the best black moment examples I can give you is from Paris Acton Bonds. And from Paris Acton Bonds, the writer, from The Natural. the movie The Natural. If you look at the movie The Natural at the end, there are two choices. One is he's injured, right? And there's a baseball game that's coming up. So he's injured and his side is bleeding. They've told him, you know, the bullet's still there. If you keep playing baseball, you very well could die. But the other reason, the other thing that's going on is you've got the bad owner who has tried to bribe him, is bribing other people. And if he does what the doctors tell him to do, everyone, including this bad owner, including the players around him, are going to think he tanked, that he wasn't honorable, that he accepted that bribe. There's no good win there, right? There's no good win. So that black moment is the choice. What's the worst thing that can happen? And he makes the choice, not amongst a good and a bad choice, but among two bad choices. In a romance, in a relationship, the black moment is, if I want to love her, then I'm going to have to give up my need, my fear, my belief, my whatever, in order for us to be together, in order for her to love me. And that black moment is what is the payoff. That black moment is the heart-wrenching point of romance, where the reader is like, how are you going to do this? It's not the climax, which is different, and that's the plot. This black moment is very much relationship-driven. Absolutely.
One thing you can do if you're combining romance with another kind of genre is you can combine the black moment in the romance with the crisis point in the overall arc. And that's really the sweet spot. So like Jerry Maguire blows up both his career and his relationship with Renee Zellweger at the same time, right? You know, he like completely destroys his life and he has to figure out how to come back from that. That's why, you know, it's a real nadir. And I'm going to use like another movie, a very popular one is You've Got Mail. That is great for following romance structure because there's some variations in what you can do. Robin mentioned that you start, obviously your people have to meet in order to fall in love, right? But when You've Got Mail, they don't actually meet until much farther in the story, right? Because they're emailing back and forth. So there are many ways that you can have your characters interact with each other, even if they're not in the same place. They might be hearing about each other. You could start there. Then with You've Got Mail, their relationship progresses. They begin sharing more and more things about their personal lives. They end up leaving their respective spouses. And then, which is kind of the point of no return, because they're thinking, well, gee, maybe I really like this person I'm talking to on email. Then they actually meet, discover that they're on opposite sides of their personal war, right? And that's a real black moment. And they have to come back from that. And they both had to give up something that was very important to them in order to come around and have that relationship.
Let me finish this kind of part up to say this. If you're going to add a romance or a love story into your story, it has to be integral. So it has to, this romance, the person, whoever that person is, the romantic interest, it's got to be an integral part of the story. The villain has to go after them. They have to know something. They have to have a reason. They have to have a skill, information, something that helps through your plot. If that doesn't exist, then it feels very thrown in and also very episodic. It's not integral. And again, that's also the definition of subplot. The romance could start a quarter of the way through your novel. It could start halfway through your novel. I think it tends to, a quarter to the end, usually. Something like that. But, those rules are, they're different. Jerry Maguire's an example. That whole beginning part from him. He doesn't really start this relationship with the heroine until a little bit later. So that's the structure. That's most of what I thought.
What are the tropes?
Okay, so tropes. For those of you who don't know, a trope is simply a recognizable story element. That's at its most basic definition. So every once in a while you'll encounter a writer who will say, oh, I don't believe in using tropes. I'm going to write something original. It's like, well, I'm sorry, if you belong to the human race, you're going to be using tropes. That's how storytelling works. So some common tropes. One thing that RWA does that's interesting is they survey readers for their favorite current tropes, and they post the top 10 at any given time, and you can see that on the public-facing site. So here's some of the ones. This was from a tropes list from 2014 because that was what I'd already prepared. So sorry, it was easy for us. But it doesn't change hugely from year to year, which is interesting to me. And we did some movie examples since we thought movies are a little bit more universal, since we all make different genres. So enemies to lovers is a very popular trope. It's actually one of my favorite tropes. So the Taming of the Shrew is a good one. Interview with the Vampire. Interesting choice. Robin put together some of these examples. Pride and Prejudice is the classic enemies to lovers. Veronica Roth's Divergent series. My new one that's coming out from St. Martin's this fall, this is enemies to lovers story. Mine also incorporates, which is not on the list, but one of my other favorite tropes, which is marriage of convenience. My enemies end up having to marry each other in order to ensure peace. That's one that's harder to pull off in a contemporary world because there's not a lot of compelling reasons in our modern day world to make people have to marry each other. But if you're doing something that's historical or that's alternate world, it's great to marry your warring lovers to each other and make them have to duke it out.
I'll do one more example because these are sitting here. But Second Chance at Love is one. And that's different typically than reunion. So a reunion story, a second chance at love is we were in love and then we divorced, we broke up, something happened. When you use that though, in order for the loves to be, again, believable and to earn that love again, whatever reason they broke up has got to be dealt with. So there was a book that I read several years ago by a New York Times bestselling author, and she didn't tell you up front why they broke up, this particular couple. It ended up actually being that this guy had been a drunk and he had hit her, and that's why they broke up. And for me, it didn't, there were multiple reasons it didn't work, but to have that be forgivable and for them to get together again, yeah, it's the one guideline. You have to be able to earn it. And so if you're going to put something where it was serious enough for them to break up and not forgive each other, you've got to be able to show that they've learned and grown from the reason that they broke up in the first place and suffered, frankly, whoever was the main cause of that. Though it could have been both of them, but there was probably one inciting incident that caused it. So that's the reunion story is more like high school lovers that went off to college and you meet them later at some time. So and some of these examples are kind of fun, but I like the soulmate is kind of neat. That Princess Bride would be an example of the soulmate story. A lot of paranormal romances use that. There's, especially if it's werewolves or vampires or different kinds of creatures where they're meant to be together. And so you have to find the conflict between them. The other thing I wanted to say really quickly is that a romance is not just all hunky-dory. It has its ebbs and flows just like any other plot. So you're going to have some darker moments and you're going to have times where they're working together and then there's going to be some kind of a turnaround, a turning point. And one of the things you can actually do with that is you can look and see what their flaws are. So their internal conflicts are actually what connects and makes their romantic conflict. So what's inside of them? Here's the questions I ask. What's inside of him, as I write, here's an arrow. What's inside of him that keeps him from loving her? What's inside of him that keeps him from loving her? What's inside of her that keeps her from loving him? Because it's not, he wants to buy my ranch. It's about, that's not, an arsonist and a fireman is just an external thing. It's not of interest. So you have to look inside the character. Love is about inside, it's not about outside. It's about internal conflict. And so the character development to have a really great romance, a really great black moment, it's all about the emotion. One of my favorite sayings is actions don't drive a story. Actions drive emotions, and emotions drive the story. It's the emotions that make your characters memorable. So we also have a big list of comprehensive list of tropes on there. You know, there's secret babies, there's convenience, marriage of convenience, there's fake marriages, there's arranged marriages. I'm sure you could all come up with a classic movie that used those. They're really great brainstorming messages. So the other tip I can give you is movies as templates are a really great source of inspiration. So to help you get through. But again, make sure your romance has a beginning and an end. Make sure the characters have conflict between them. Make sure they're there for a reason.
I'll stand up, sorry. Okay, so in the plaid shirt, you had a question before? You still have the question?
Oh, well, yeah, just gone with the written dialogue.
I'm sorry, repeat?
It's gone with the written dialogue.
Okay, and I'll repeat the questions. Is Gone with the Wind a romance? What does our survey say? Love story to the woman in yellow, yes. Because it ends tragically, right? If it had been slightly less definitive, if Brett Butler had been, I'm going to go off and think about it, my dear, then, you know, you could maybe, right, not exactly as resonant, right? Frankly, my dear, I'm going to think about it. Then maybe you could say it's a happy for now, or if you said, let's give it another go. But, you know, it ends tragically. Oh. What's that?
Just mention that.
Oh, yes, oh, sorry, we do have the basket going around, Barbara's got the little white basket, so, okay.
Julie has another.
Oh, okay.
Tell me what the drawing is for.
And on the other side for the drawing. What we mentioned at the beginning, it'll be giveaway for these 3 books. All right, so I saw a question here, Luke.
Is trope just a modern term for theme?
Trope and theme, and tell me if you want to answer, because I'm like, okay,
Yeah. So a theme of your story is typically more about the emotions or the growth of the character. So a theme is, a lot of times a theme is what your character learns. So if they learn to, they get to rely on others. Or, you know, but a trope is actually a structure of a story where you actually know some of the plot. A trope has the themes and the elements of actually the plot. And a theme doesn't have to have that. You can have a lot of themes, but revenge would be a theme, actually. It also depends on how you look at theme. There's a lot of definitions of it. I think of theme as whatever the epiphany of my protagonist is the theme of my book. That's how I think about it. Normally it's something like revenge, or you can rely on other people. You don't have to go alone. You are your own hero. That's how I see theme. So don't get too... A revenge trope would be,
So a revenge trope would be the person who is being eaten alive by their own revenge, right? You're being poisoned by your own revenge. That's a classic revenge trope, right? The person who goes off to get revenge, but it ends up destroying them.
don't get too wound around the axle about terms that folks use, because different writers and teachers use terms in different ways. And so don't get too wrapped around the axle on terms. You know, as long as you understand how to use it.
Okay, purple shirt.
So sci-fi fantasy can involve
Can everybody else keep quiet, because I can't hear otherwise?
sci-fi or fantasy could involve human or entirely made up elements, planets, and everything. Does romance have to be human? Feeling, you know?
Okay, so the question is, if you're doing like an alien world or an alternate fantasy world, does the romance have to be between humans? Is that right?
Or to relate to human feelings.
Okay, does it have to relate to human feelings? So,
Mind if I take this?
it's a great question, because you could certainly play with the that not everybody experiences emotions the same way. And there are some good stories playing with like artificial intelligence, and do they have the ability to enter into a relationship and what sort of things. So you certainly could do that. What I always come back to is, who are you writing for? You are writing for human beings, theoretically. I mean, some of you may have branched out, let me know. Broadens your audience. But if you're writing for human beings, then you have to put things in terms that human beings understand, which means that you want to at least find a piece of human relationship and feelings that will make sense to your reading audience. More questions?
I just wanted to say that you have made me think about the romance in my book. And of course, it's not a romance novel. It's very serious. But people in it are having to deal with things that are changing their lives, and they're having to think very hard about how they love and their relationships and family and all the rest of it. And that is so important. And there's a lot of passion, a lot of love, and a lot of consideration for each other during these emergency things that are going on. And so it fits with what you're talking about. So thank you for talking about it. And it doesn't have a happily ever after ending, but there are promises that things are going to get better.
Her comment was that she's not writing romance, she's writing a more serious story, but her characters are going through a lot of strife and conflict and are having to, and changes in their life, which is causing them to relook at what love is. And it's not a happily ever after, but it is a growth and change, so it's more of a love story. And there's a promise at the end. So really, if you're thinking about romance, you're thinking about human behavior, and you're thinking about growth and change, and you're thinking about two people making each other better. Think about your two characters, your love interest characters. What can they give each other from an emotional level? What can they teach each other on an emotional level? So, for example, if something that would work out easily. So what if you have a woman, or I'll just say, one of your main character is someone who doesn't want to rely on others. She's afraid to rely on other people. She's a go-it-alone, butt heroin kind of girl. And who's the absolute worst person for her to get involved with? Oh, I don't know, maybe some like ex-Marine guy who is, his whole world is all about protecting other people and making sure everyone else is okay. They are not going to be getting along very well. What do they have to learn? So she's got to learn she can rely on other people. And he's got to learn that she can be her own hero and he doesn't have to protect anyone anymore. And they have to teach each other something. And so that will make a big difference.
There's a great moment in the movie, As Good as It Gets, which is, Jack Nicholson basically saying, what if this is as good as it gets, that, and he's a very negative personality. And the huge turning point in that story is when he tells her, you make me want to be a better man. And that's the core of romance is, does this other person make you be a better person? Did you have something? No. 5 minutes. Okay, we have 5 minutes. Any other questions?
It can be about anything. It doesn't be up to
If you have a series of books, the first one, the love interest is one particular person, and there's also a buddy, a real buddy. You go through a series of books like that and get to the end and never go through the buddy, or is that going to be something very much?
Okay, so the question is if you have a series of books, you have a female protagonist, there's a male love interest, and then there's also a male best friend, right? Can you go through the whole series and at the end have her choose the best friend instead? So as long as you're not promising that it's a romance, I'm going to say that you can get away with this. The romance readers will tell you it's not a romance and they won't like you for it. And I just had an example. Stephanie Bondage with the Stephanie Plum. Janet Bondage, Stephanie Plum, sorry. She maintained that love triangle throughout umpteen million books, and people eventually got tired of her not resolving it. But she also never said it was romance, right? It was primarily something else with that love triangle in there. So there's nothing wrong with having the falling in love with the best friend after you figure out that the guy who's been the love interest is a real ship after all, but for all of that leading up to that, people will be expecting the love interest to remain the love interest, so just don't market it as romance.
The other thing is you've got to make a change in that decision and be consistent with your character. You don't want it to feel like you're tricking the reader. You've been tricking the reader for all those books, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, she really loves him. Because that will be a throw across the room. Get on Goodreads and say, don't ever read this series because you're going to be really ticked off. It's kind of like Game of Thrones when she got to the last episode.
Well,
How many people say it's really great, but just don't watch the last?
don't watch the last season.
Don't watch the last season. Good point. Because George didn't have any.
No, that's right.
That's actually very true.
This question is more the feedback you say you get, like on Goodreads or anything. Are you able to respond to those?
Okay, so this question is, should we respond to feedback on Goodreads and so forth? The short answer is no. No. It just really shouldn't go read it. Don't go read your reviews. Sometimes people will tag you with reviews, and then it's semi-safe, but occasionally people will tag you with their terrible review because they want to make sure that you see how much they hate your book. And it doesn't do anything for you. Even good reviews can turn your head and keep you from thinking about what's most important. So really the rule of thumb is don't read your reviews, and the second one is if you do read your reviews, don't respond. If you have to vent, that's why you have friends. And don't do it anywhere where anyone can take screenshots.
I will, exclamation point, ditto, yes. So, and this is why, because when I sold my first book, I had to look, right? I had to look, and I read some reviews, and there were some that really ticked me off, and there was one that said I didn't do something with the gun right, but it could have been, and blah, blah, blah. And then there was one that said, this is a terrible, terrible book, and I just wasted 2 hours of my life that I'll never get back. And I still remember that from 2011, so I just don't read it.
Sorry, I keep messing with the video because I stand for it. So, we're happy to chat with you guys and answer questions and so forth.
And they do have books for sale.
Yes, we have books for sale, so we'll go.
I actually don't have books for sale, but our bios are on the back of our handout sheet, so you can look on Amazon or wherever.
So Robin says that hers are on the back of the handout if you want to get hers. I have some of mine on there, but I did bring a few paper copies to sell as well. So, okay, let's do the drawing. For a Donald Mask, The Fire in Fiction. We have a last minute entry. I'll let Robin draw.
Okay.
Let's see. This says Pam something. Artie Mama at iCloud. Oh, come on up and get your book. All right, for a copy of the book, The Arrows of the Heart, Fantasy Romance. Business card of Joe Brown.
So I'm giving away Forgotten Secrets. This book is a romantic mystery, and it's kind of a little bit different because the witness to the crime has Alzheimer's disease, and I get 10% of the royalties for this book to the Alzheimer's Association in honor of my mom. So anyway, that's what this book is.
There's
Kleenex in here. Dale Garrett. Oh my gosh.
Freshman entry.
Yes. For those who got the books, if they want us to sign them, we can. Happy to answer any questions on any topic. Thank you so much for being here and staying and being so patient. We really appreciate it.